What's up, everyone? Assuming my GoPro is recording and my microphone is working, this might be my first video, introduction video per se, at least for this kind of channel. Looks like it's recording. Alright, let's go down to that parking lot and I'll give you guys a look at the bike. How about, let's go down to that far end, shall we? This is as good a spot as any. Alright, so this is the bike. It's a 2017 V-Strom 650XT. For anyone that doesn't know, the XT doesn't really mean much. They say it's their adventure model, but I think what that gives you over the stock one, it comes with these, not these ones, but with these plastic handguards that are just good for a little bit of wind. As you can see, I've put proper Barkbuster handguards on with the aluminum protection here, which is critical if you crash the bike. Protects the levers. The XT model also comes with the spoked rims, which is actually probably the only valuable thing that it does provide you, as well as this useless plastic, I don't even know if I should call that a skid plate. You might be able to tell, but I've actually got a proper skid plate underneath it, and just keep this for the black look. I kind of like the black stuff. I'll break that very quickly, I'm sure, and then I'll throw it away. So yeah, I bought this thing pre-owned. It's my first adventure bike. I've actually ridden an R6 for quite some time. Turned it into a race bike. Wanted something reasonable for the road and something that did a little bit of everything. You know, weekend trips, popping into town, long trips, long tours, some off-road stuff. And the V-Strom 650 kind of fits that bill. It is the master of nothing, but is very good at almost everything. Super reliable. Yeah, let me run through some other stuff that I've got on this thing, and maybe a potential topic for some future videos for anyone who might be looking at doing something similar. Ooh, my bike is still on. Let's turn that off. So you can see I've got auxiliary lights that I mounted myself. Those are just cheap little things from Amazon. I wanted to give them a go before spending tons of money on these. I mean, some lights can cost, I'm in Canada, so Canadian dollars, I think some of them can cost, $200-300 for a set of lights in the bracket. Amazon brackets, Amazon lights, I think $30 for the lights, probably like $20 for the brackets. Wired it myself. Something like 1800 lumens. Haven't seriously had to use them yet, but I've tried them and tested them out, and they look like they work pretty well. What else? I mentioned the Barkbuster handguards here. These are the Storm plastics, so they're kind of pretty wide ones, pretty large ones. I think there's the VPS, which are a little bit thinner, I figured I'd go for the larger plastics. And if it's ever super, super hot, similar to today, you can unscrew the plastics with just, is it one? One on the inside? Oh yeah, one bracket on the inside, one screw on the outside. And you can get the wind flow to your hands if you need it, while keeping the protection on. I have a Quadlock mount for my phone. Let me sit back on the bike and show you from this angle. When I sit upright, I have it mounted there. So it's the handlebar mount with the Quadlock, the ram ball mounts, and that there is the vibration dampener. I've done multiple trips around Europe all through the Alps, and I did one with the ram mount, and it did destroy my camera stabilizer, which is a known issue. This is a somewhat recent addition that Quadlock came out with the vibration dampener, and I thought I would give it a go, and hopefully it protects the phone from any damage. Because yeah, the vibration over time, I think all these modern cameras and phones nowadays, they have these stabilizers, and the constant vibration from being on a motorcycle handlebar can destroy those. So when you go to take a picture, the camera, the whole image is like wavering as you try to take a picture on your phone. So that did happen to me with the RAM mount, and I've switched to this. But the RAM mounting technology is fantastic, so I went for the Quadlock vibration dampener and case and, mounting system here, which is just great, easy to put on and off. But with the RAM mounting hardware, because the ability to quickly, you can see over here, you just loosen that off, rotate these two balls around to wherever you want it, tighten it back up. It's brilliant. Not that it matters, but I'm absolutely OCD and like my stuff set up perfectly. I put it on the left hand side, right hand side is the throttle. So I see some people have it mounted on the right hand side, and although I try not to and hardly ever use it while riding, sometimes if I'm going down a little trail, or you need to quickly switch apps or something, it's much easier to do it with my left hand. If I'm pulled over, maybe keeping my hand on the brake, it's just nicer to have it on the left hand side for me. Right in front of me is a GIVI waterproof tank bag. Super important for me, waterproof. All my stuff's waterproof. I'll give you guys a more in-depth video later with when I have all my luggage on it. But I've got a Moscow Moto duffel bag and stuff. Everything for me has to be waterproof, especially when doing camping and long trips. The last thing you want is to get to a campsite or a place that you're staying for the night and find out your sleeping gear, other clothes and stuff are wet. So I was going to get I really wanted the Moscow Moto hood tank bag. But like I mentioned, I'm in Canada. They have two distribution centers, I believe, one in Europe and one in America, both of which were out of stock, especially during COVID. Wasn't sure how long it would take to get to me, and I'd get dinged for Canadian taxes and likely import duties on an expensive product. I found this was a very similar alternative for much cheaper, available for me in Canada via Canadian retailers, and I went for it. So it's got the similar kind of hood like the Moscow Moto, but then it does have zips, which is good and bad. It's one extra thing to get into. The Moscow Moto is one clip, opens up and you're in it. So it depends. In terms of ease of access, it's, I guess, one extra little layer. But it also has some benefits. You can kind of store stuff here. Maybe you have something that's soaking wet, gloves, something else, and you don't actually want to put it in here. You can store it right here, and it keeps the inner contents dry. And it also has this little thing, which is a nice alternative, even though these phones are supposed to be waterproof, and I'll use it in light rain. If it's ever pouring down, but I am using it for navigation, this tank bag has the option, hopefully you can kind of see my fingers there, to slide a phone or map or something else up in here, which I haven't yet used because this is relatively new to me, but I will use it, I'm sure. What else? I replaced both the sprockets and the chain. It's a DID chain, JT sprockets, just the stock teeth. The previous owner I bought it from, I found the chain was missing O-rings, and that's not something you want to be riding around with, a chain with no O-rings. Tires still from the previous owner, Heidenau K60 Scout. They're a 50/50 tire, perfect for me. You know, allows me to go down some trails, but also they have a very, very good mileage life on them. Some guys online, you can read the forums, some guys say they get, you know, some crazy mileage out of it, 12,000, 15, 16, 18,000 miles. So they're actually probably the tires that I will replace these ones with when they need to be replaced, and they're kind of getting there on the middle. Stock exhaust, maybe I'll change that in the future. They have their pros and cons, a bit quieter, they look a bit uglier. Recently did a valve adjustment. One of the things which I plan to make a detailed video on, because I looked into it and there weren't very many good explanation videos, and I like to do things correctly and properly. Under here, I've set up this thing. What this allows me to do is I run any accessories, any electrical accessories out of this thing, not from the battery. I have also used a relay and spliced it into one of the lights, the light wires on the motorcycle, which only comes on when the bike is turned on. So to keep it simple, this thing only gets power when my bike is on. Therefore, everything and anything that I hook up to this also only gets power when the bike is on. That is something that I wanted, because with an adventure bike, I've got, like I said, my auxiliary lights, which I forgot to mention. I wired in a on-off plug here for it. That's how I turn my auxiliary lights on and off. I have a USB plug wired in there. If you ever use any heated gear, heated gloves, heated jacket, I only want those to run when the bike is on, because it's all too common. If you have something plugged in under your seat, in the USB port, your phone, you get somewhere, you turn your bike off, something is still running, pulling power from the battery. A couple hours later, the next morning, your battery's dead and you're in trouble. This way, I can have all sorts of stuff plugged in. I turn the bike off, and it cuts power to everything, and it's not pulling power from the battery. I've done this and tried to wire this properly using heat shrink, proper inline fuses, the proper wiring, a good relay, and I think that's something I'll make an in-depth video on for anyone else who's interested in doing it. Maybe if anyone watches these videos, or this video, if that's something you might be interested in seeing, let me know in the comments, and I can do that. That's one thing that I've got wired into it. It's actually a voltmeter, but I don't need it for that. It's just a dual USB plug. So if I'm riding a long trip, I can charge a phone, a power bank under my seat while I'm riding. And like I said, it will only charge when the bike is turned on. As soon as I turn the bike off, the power to that will be cut. It's a bit messy under here right now, because I got some little tool pouch, a little air compressor, but hopefully that makes sense. What else? Anything I'm missing? Short levers, they were from the previous owner. I'll leave them on. This thing. Bar risers. mirror extenders, lowering links, which you might just be able to see right there to adjust the height, center stand. I kind of forget that's not something that comes stock on the bike, because I really think it should on every single adventure bike, but that is not stock. They don't come stock with a center stand, which I think is crazy. I think it's a must-have. Bigger plate for the side stand. SW Motech, as you can see there. Obviously great when you're putting your bike on the side stand on loose material, loose surfaces, so it doesn't sink in. Luggage racks, to mount luggage racks, a rear GIVI plate. I strap my Moscow Moto with 2 straps over the duffel, front to back. And this GIVI plate, most do, but this one didn't actually have any appropriate holes to mount things this way. So these and those, I actually drilled out myself for those straps. What else? What else? Crash bars. It's funny, you look at the bike and some of the obvious things you just pass right over because you almost forget that they're additions. Yeah, these crash bars, another must for adventure bikes in my opinion. A fork brace. Tons of people recommend this for the V-Stroms. That's a fork brace there. I think that's pretty much it. Stock windscreen. Yeah. I had to do a ton of research for, and therefore I might make some video on if anyone needs it, is the whole recording and audio setup with a GoPro. I mean, the amount of information that's out there and some of the stuff that's not that I wouldn't say is correct information, but these weird setups. Maybe I'll try to do an in-depth overview of that, because I think I finally got a pretty good setup that's working pretty well. I've tried tons of different stuff, different mics, different GoPros, different accessories, different audio recording devices, and I think this is the best that I've found. Alright, I'm an idiot and I'm wearing a full-on climb adventure motorcycle jacket, which is, and it's about, what does my bike say, 27 degrees Celsius. I'm wearing full gear. Thumbs up for full gear all the time, guys. But I am sweating. I'm starting to sweat now, and I'm a lucky bastard. I don't sweat much at all. So I need to get some out on the roads and get some speed going. Allow my jacket to get some good airflow through the vents. Cool myself off a bit. That's the other thing I'm finding. This is a new jacket as well. Basically everything you're seeing here, everything for me is basically new. New adventure bike, new gear, this climb jacket which you can't see, everything, the bike, it's all new to me. So I'm finding all these little quirks. One of them is the shoulder padding on the jacket digs really badly into a collarbone of mine, which I had operated on. I've got a metal plate in my collarbone from a bad crash I had while racing the R6. And with the backpack and the armor on this thing, it really digs in. And it's really annoying. Oh, what the heck? What is that road? Oh, hang on a second. We're going up there, boys. And girls. And girls, boys and girls. I need to remember I'm on an adventure bike now. And the world is my oyster. AKA, you look for gravel roads like this and see where they go. I think that's a police station right there. So if it's somewhere I'm not supposed to be, I'll probably have some police coming after me in no time. Well, glad I discovered this. Any little gravel area could be a good opportunity for me to practice some of the other little tricks and skills that are on my list. One of which is I think people call them different things, the elephant turn. Basically just purposely spinning the bike around by losing rear traction on the rear wheel, spinning the rear around to make a nice tight turn. Again, something I've never tried because you don't do that on a sport bike, but when you're down a little trail on an adventure bike and you might need to turn around in a tight spot, that is something that you could and probably would need to use. Maybe that's, funnily enough, that's something I actually have on video, going back to that crash I had on my collarbone. I had a pretty bad high side at 130 kilometers an hour, which for my MPH inclined viewers, of whom there may be none because I might not even have any viewers at all, but for anyone who may end up seeing this, 130 kilometers an hour, yeah, so I came off at 75 miles an hour roughly, thrown off the bike, slid down the track for what felt like, well, it felt like half a mile. It was probably at least 150 meters, if not more. Yeah, destroyed my collarbone. And yeah, I got that on video. I actually had a similar GoPro chin mount set up for that. So maybe that's something that I can share if anyone wants to see it. It's a pretty gnarly video, pretty cool video. Yeah, how did I, maybe I should start off with some of the more basics for a first video. I showed the bike, that's a good start. What about myself? How did I get into all this? I've been riding close to a decade now. I'm in my late 20s. Got into motorbikes. I used to ride on the back of my dad's when he was young. Sorry, when I was young. as a child growing up. I used to ride on the back of his bike here and there. He's not an avid motorcyclist, but he likes them. But I definitely call him more of a casual rider. You know, really nice days he gets out and about. Currently he's got a Suzuki Katana 750. So yeah, that was kind of what started my interest in it. And then when I got to, I think I was 19, I got my motorcycle license and my first motorcycle. Got into racing, like I said, raced the R6. I haven't raced since I had that really bad crash because I destroyed the bike. I did fix it up and fixed it up properly. I replaced almost the entire front end. The forks were bent, the triple trees were bent, which I'm told is something that is quite hard to accomplish. So I can be proud of my crash. And yeah, my dad and I mean, I guess really two highlights of my motorcycling career, if I want to call it that, but my time on motorcycles was, we've done 2 serious tours around Europe together. And I mean, that's something that's incredible to share with, you know, with your father. It's amazing to do it no matter what by yourself with friends, but I was lucky enough to do it with my dad twice in the last 5 years. The first time we did a 16-day tour, southern France, a bit of northern Spain, and then all through the Alps. And then the second one was even longer. It was 22 days of riding. And we did Portugal, Spain, the Pyrenees again. This time we went down to Italy. We did the Amalfi Coast, back up through Italy, around the Adriatic coast, into Slovenia, looped back up into Austria, then went west all the way through the Alps. Again, hitting all sorts of magnificent passes. Some of the usual suspects, Timmeljoch, Grossglockner, Stelvio, as well as lots of other ones, of course. I did the first one. We rented bikes over there. We didn't take our own for a couple of reasons. We discovered that the cost is to ship our bikes from Canada is really not much cheaper than actually renting bikes over there. And at the time, I had an R6, my dad had his Katana. His Katana would be decent, but my R6 certainly wouldn't be an ideal touring machine. So on the first trip I rented a Triumph Tiger 800, the X, which one was it? The XRX, I believe. And on the second one, I, at that point, got into racing. And as I'm always learning and getting better, I was also a better rider. I went for something that I would have a little bit more fun on. Not that I didn't have tons of fun on the Triumph, but something that I could really have some fun in the twisties, and I went with a BMW S1000 XR on the second trip. And I recorded both of those trips, and I plan to make some videos. Well, I made a video on the first one. I'm currently in the midst of still kind of messing about with lots of the footage from the second trip. Something like 4,000 gigabytes worth of footage from a GoPro from my dad, as well as a GoPro from myself. And I also have a drone, which I guess kind of leads me to my next point, is I run a little video editing and drone services company on the side. So for me, this was a logical progression, starting to make some motorcycle videos. You know, obviously loving the motorcycles, and then having that editing and kind of drone expertise. So I guess that's kind of why, or how I ended up getting into this, and maybe some motovlogging, or at least some motorcycle related videos and trips. On those trips, I didn't see my dad's bikes. On the first trip, when I was on the Triumph Tiger 800, my dad was on a BMW R1200 RT, so the more kind of big, comfy touring machine. And on the second trip, he went with the GS, the R1250 GS. I don't think it was the Adventure. I can't recall if it was the Adventure or not. I don't think it was. So that's something else that you guys can maybe keep an eye out for. I think I'll make at least, I think to start, I'll make one highlight video of that trip. I mean, I have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of footage, and I'm hoping to at least make one kind of highlight video that shows the entire trip in something like a 10-minute video, if that's even possible. I mean, the amount that I'm gonna have to cut, and the amount of stuff that we saw, it'll be hard to turn it into 10 minutes, but I think I'm gonna try. Then I might make some more extended ones, kind of progressing day by day through our trip. Unfortunately, I don't have, it's not going to be much of a vlog style, though. It'll be mainly just with music and footage from the riding, because I did actually try to record my voice through much of the trip, but it was as I was going through the process of trying to find out what works best for recording. And at that time I was trying an external audio recorder, and let's just suffice it to say that it didn't turn out very well. I had terrible wind noise, and it's a nightmare to sync all of the audio with the clips in the editing. If you were doing a single long video more similar to what I'm doing currently, it would actually be a more viable option. But on the trips, you know, we're turning the GoPro on, you know, oh, there's a beautiful little area or lake that you're going around, you turn the GoPro on for a minute or two and then turn it off. And it doesn't really work for that kind of short, segmented recording, because now you've got 150 short clips like that for one day's worth of riding, and to sync all of that up with the audio was a bit of a nightmare. And even if it, and you know, I didn't end up doing it anyway, because of course, like I said, the audio was actually garbage with the wind noise that was picked up. So yeah, we'll see if I end up uploading this. Hopefully it's a good introduction video. Knowing my luck, I probably haven't plugged in my audio, or something hasn't worked properly, and But if everything went to plan, and it does, hopefully it's a good little introduction. And hopefully the start of many videos to come, both vlog styles, maybe some skills, tips, tricks, things that I've learned, gear reviews, some videos about my trips around Europe perhaps, some instructionals like setting up that electrical system that I set up under the seat, and things like that. Okay, quick little GoPro battery change. And I'm going to start heading home. It's about 2:30 in the afternoon here. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully I can make some videos that are valuable and funny and informative and entertaining to some people. And yeah, it could be a mix of different stuff. I've got a girlfriend who I'm fortunate enough who loves being on the motorbike with me. She doesn't ride herself yet, and I'm not going to pressure her to, but maybe she'll decide that she wants to try riding for herself at some point in the future, but currently she just loves being on the back with me. One of the reasons I ended up getting the adventure bike, so we can do trips together. We like our camping, so we've already done one, but we're planning to do many more camping trips on the bike. So that might be some good videos. Lots of different topics. I'm in Ontario in Canada, like I said, southwestern Ontario. We have crown land to the north of us in the province, which we plan to camp on. So I might be able to make some videos talking about the pros and cons of that, how we find places to go, what it's like on a motorcycle, some of the things that her and I probably will mess up along the way. I could talk about general riding techniques, safety. And not to get killed by people like that will want to turn in front of you. Editing and video recording. Lots of maintenance related things. Those are all things that I've learned. I just did my first valve adjustment on this. I never quite got enough miles on the R6 to do a valve adjustment. This V-Strom I bought with almost 50,000 kilometers, and although the previous owner, I specifically asked him when purchasing it, has a valve adjustment been done, when realistically, based on the recommendations by Suzuki for this bike, 2 of them should have been done at that point. He said yes, 1 had been done. I think he was lying about that, to be honest. So I didn't trust him and went and did it myself. So I think showing things like that, because it's not something that I've done. I haven't done, 20 valve adjustments. So there are the things that I think people who have done it so many times take for granted, that a beginner doing it for the first time would want explained much more thoroughly and clearly. So I'm hoping I can kind of provide a little bit of that to people as well, because it's what I've gone through when I first started riding, you know, looking at different videos regarding everything, techniques, maintenance. Sometimes you're left wanting a little bit. Yeah, this first video, it's the beginning of April 2021, and the weather's just turned for us here. Just a week or so ago it was -2 overnight. We had a little bit of snow about an hour north of here. And today is, my bike says 25, I think it's a little bit cooler than that, but yeah, around 20 degrees. This is the first week where we've kind of had some real nice weather. And that's one thing that does suck about being in Ontario in Canada. I must admit, it's not necessarily the most ideal location for being an avid motorcyclist. If you like long, straight, flat roads with no bends, and a riding season that can sometimes be, who knows, as little as 3 or 4 months, then this is the spot for you. Yeah, I think those are some other kind of riding topics that I think I have in mind as well. One of them is introducing people to clutchless upshifts, which, same thing when I first discovered it, I'd never even heard of it for a certain amount of time. And then you hear that you can shift up and down without the clutch, and to me it sounded, I was very skeptical. You think, oh, okay, maybe it can be done, but surely it's not good for your bike. And then especially when I got into racing, I didn't use a quick shifter. Clutchless upshifts are quicker, smoother, and although a topic for heated debate, arguably better for the bike. So that's something that I'll probably get into at some point. It's weird. Even though I could do it all the time, I don't, funnily enough. Especially when I'm going around town, I tend to use it. Maybe that comes from when I was racing. I tend to only use it when I'm kind of really accelerating pretty hard. I don't know if subconsciously I feel like the bike doesn't quite click into gear quite as well if you're not accelerating, if you're just kind of barely moving along and trying to change gears. But I tend to do it only when I'm accelerating hard. Maybe I'll show you a couple more clutchless upshifts here. Yeah, I'll accelerate a bit. You ready? 1, 2, 3. really is so much smoother, so much quicker. Yeah, like I said, there's something I like about using all the controls. And I'll use the clutch 98% of the time, especially when I'm around the streets. Let me turn the music back down and give you a couple more here. Try to make sure I'm looking down a little bit in case you can't see. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I think another topic, I've got a lot in my mind that I think I'd like to share at some point. I think one of the ones that could probably be most important is really being able to emergency brake effectively. I went through the motorcycle safety course when I first started to learn, and I think understandably, because they have a limited amount of time with you. I think mine was 2 days, one weekend. So they can't show you everything, especially when they're starting with complete beginners. But one of the things that I found after I came out of that course and started riding on the streets was the emergency braking and feeling uncomfortable. You know, let's say I wanted to turn left there kind of last minute and I didn't feel comfortable braking hard, changing gears effectively, and making that turn safely. So I would end up most of the time, as you should, I would just go past it and find another way to turn around or something like that. But it's a crucial skill, not just to make the turn that you want to make, but more so if you need to do something like that in an emergency, where you need to quickly avoid something in front of you, or avoid a crash, or something in the road. And it's only through kind of watching a bunch of YouTube videos and reading different instructional pieces that and getting into racing, where I kind of really improved those skills a lot. And in particular, even just coming to a stop in a straight line. I think in the motorcycle safety course that I was in, they taught you to pull in the clutch. You know, if that guy swerved into my lane like he does and was perhaps coming head on to me, just to be able to come to a stop in a completely straight line. I believe, if I remember correctly, the safety course I was in taught me to pull in the clutch, you know, use the front brake, and cycle down through the gears, but while keeping the clutch held in, just so that when you came to a complete stop, you would be in first gear, and then if, you know, something was coming up behind you, or if you needed to move a little bit further, then you're in first gear and you have that ability. But the stopping distance when you just pull in the clutch is so much greater than if you make use of the engine braking in your bike. So actually releasing the clutch and going through those gears while braking hard is so much more effective for braking. And because it helped me so much, I think I'd like to go over that topic at some point in the future. Especially like on a bike like this, especially Suzuki V-Strom with the V-twin, the engine braking that this bike provides you, around the city, around most situations, I don't even have to brake most of the time. I can just cycle through the gears, and the engine braking is so significant that I don't even need to touch my brakes. And when you're in an emergency situation and you actually don't make use of that, is silly, and I'd love for people to be able to potentially avoid certain situations by knowing how to make use of that properly. So I think I'd like to make a video that